Good evening. Welcome to the June 6th Northborough School Committee meeting. It is 7:03, and I'd like to, on behalf of the Northborough School Committee, call the meeting to order this evening. The first item on the agenda is the election of officers for the 2018-19 school year. Do I have a motion to nominate the new chairperson?
Superintendent Johnson, I'd like to nominate Sue Lawrence as chairman for the 2018-2019 school committee.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Are you willing and able?
Are you willing and able?
I'm ready to go.
Any regrets? Speak now.
Not yet. And with that, Madam Chair?
Oh, did we,
Excellent.
did they vote? We have to vote.
They vote,
We
oh,
do.
vote. I just assumed everybody was cheering. There you go, I'm new at
All in
this.
favor?
And can we call the vote? All in favor? Excellent, thank you.
There we go.
Now I'm going to hit it for my...
She's already practicing.
All right. Thank you. I gladly accept. And we'll go on and move to our next thing we need to elect, which is a vice chair of the committee. Do I have any nominations for vice chair?
Madam Chair, I would like to move that we elect Joan Frank as vice chair of the committee for the upcoming year.
I second that motion.
All right, for Lauren. All in favor? And the next one we have is secretary for the committee. Yes.
I nominate Keith as secretary for the school committee.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, Lauren seconds. All right. All those in favor?
Can I? I don't know if I'm supposed
You accept
Oh,
it?
yes.
Absolutely.
Is this
You
when
don't
we
need
should
me.
tell Mr. LaBelle that we're actually going to have the minutes taken by the secretary
No.
next year?
Executive meetings only.
All right. I believe the next thing, do we have to do superintendency union number 3 representatives at this meeting?
Yes, customarily, as you know, we do meet 4 times at a minimum as a combined, and that's called the Superintendency Union 3. And generally, it is the most senior members, 3 senior members on the school committee that are participants and officers representing Northborough on Superintendent's Union 3. And we will officially vote everyone in at the combined meeting on June 20th. So this is sort of acknowledgement of who the 3 members will be.
Okay, so we don't have to vote on it, we're just saying that our intention to present
Right.
these 3 members at combined meeting.
And the chair is always one of the 3.
And so the other 2 senior members would be Joan and Keith. So do we just ask for a general consensus
Mhm.
of that's what we
Fine.
want to put forward?
Yes.
Sounds fun.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is action on the minutes. I'll open it up for discussion on the minutes for the meeting of May 2nd.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move that we accept the minutes of Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018. Make a correction on the date.
So I noted the stall, so
Right.
noted.
So there's a correction on that.
Yeah, with a correction.
Seconded.
Is there any discussion? It was all, only the date that was the.
Anything else?
Okay. And so I will go ahead and ask, all in favor of accepting the minutes for Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018? Unanimous? Put that on. So the next item of business is 2018-2019 school committee subcommittee assignments discussion. So we have in our packets the draft of the subcommittee assignments. We have a few open spots for these. I would like to go over them with Christine. Some of these appear to not necessarily be ones that we need, and some of them are. So I wanted to open the discussion to the floor. Or Christine, let her go ahead and.
So generally, at this time of year, with new school committee members, sometimes from year to year, we have an opportunity to review all of the subcommittee assignments, and we have standing committees that meet every year. There are 2 committees with respect to budget, capital, and the Budget Subcommittee, the Operational Budget Subcommittee. We always need folks to sign the warrants. However, anyone who is on the committee can sign the warrants, but we do have designated signers, particularly over the summer. So we will be looking for at least those names tonight, because we do conduct business throughout the summer. And generally, that's a visit to central office to sign the warrants, particularly in the summer as we don't meet as a school committee. Matt usually brings the green pile with him because Northborough is green, and you'll have an opportunity to sign the warrants most often when we meet as a school committee. So those items on the top are our traditional standing committees here in Northborough. The audit committee, subcommittee really is only for Region, because Region does go through the audit process as it is much like a town. So we go through the audit. So that's the first one on your subcommittee list. So the standing committees that we might want to consider membership on would be the Capital Planning Subcommittee, the Operational Budget Subcommittee, the signers officially or designated as for the payroll warrants, and then the Policy Development Subcommittee. It is our hope that we will be able to meet at least once this summer if folks are eligible and around to participate. It's also noteworthy that about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, we did seek guidance from legal counsel, and that would be that anyone who is actually the official appointee to serve on these subcommittees, if in fact they are not able to attend and we need a quorum for us to be able to move forward with anything that happens in subcommittee, any member can sit and stand in the place of the official appointee. So if Lauren and Joan and Keith are on the Policy Development Subcommittee or the Operational Budget Subcommittee, and we need to take a vote on anything to move forward, and one of you are unable to attend because of circumstances, Kelly or Sue could sit in their place and we could still have a quorum to take votes. So that's worked out really well, I think, over the years. So generally, we would send a notice to the folks who are officially members of that subcommittee, determine whether or not we would have a quorum, and if not, we would send it out to the whole committee and invite anyone else to join so that we are able to conduct business. The committees that follow in various formats, and that's why there's a break in that listing. From time to time, these committees are called for intentional purposes wherever we may be in the course of doing the work that we need to do. So, for example, we are in our second year, entering our second year of a 3-year contract with all of our associations, so the bargaining subcommittee would not meet, and generally that's the entire committee. Our combined legislative ad hoc group has actually morphed into a legislative liaison, and that's someone who just shares information with the committee. And I work with them. I often have a lot of legislative updates through the various committees and the superintendent's associations, and that's how we're able to put a legislative update item on the agenda on the school committees, and it's just keeping us all informed of what's taking place at the legislative level. The Curriculum Review Committee, we have not met in the past format. We're in the process of trying to refresh the Curriculum Review Committee. So as these new committees are formed, we do ask throughout the school year for a liaison from the school committee to join us. There are a few study groups, and a study group is really formed when the community comes together and shares with us that they have a particular interest, perhaps in pursuing a discussion and or changes on the educational landscape warrant us taking up a discussion. Perfect example, the kindergarten study group. And that's something that works through the superintendent's group, and then we update the school committee as we continue to do our work, as we have from time to time. This summer, we are launching a follow-up to our cafeteria conversation. We already have a health and wellness standing committee, and we would want a liaison. Mr. LaBelle is currently the liaison to that committee, and they will be taking a lead role in our review of our food service program, mostly from a nutritional standpoint. There's been a lot of conversation about, healthy foods, and we want to certainly make that part of a conversation under the auspices of the health and wellness group. So that will be a very active group this year, whoever wants to serve on that committee. The next group that's very important is our liaison to the PTO, and when it refers to liaison, that's a school committee member who attends and gathers all kinds of great information and information about what's being planned for the year or what they're concerned about, and they either bring it back to the committee or through my office or a combined effort. So there are great opportunities for school committee members to be engaged in a lot of great conversations. So that's an important one, and Mr. LaBelle, there's double duty. There you are again as the liaison for that committee. We do have a liaison to the senior citizens in town, and that's attending some of their meetings or their events, and that's always fun to find out ways in which we can collaborate. The kindergarten study still is standing. It's still a standing committee, a study group, and we have a current participant. Patty Kress, former school committee member, was very active in the solar feasibility study, and at our last meeting, we appointed her, I think in perpetuity, or until completion or not deciding to move forward to the solar feasibility. The long-range planning is actually the master planning group, which we do have a representative, as you see, Mrs. Lawrence. And then the mentor to new members, there is usually a school committee member assigned, but that's usually after the chair and the superintendent meet individually just to go through policies and all of those great things and really more information about some of these subcommittees. And the special meeting of buildings and grounds, that's generally a walkthrough. All of our buildings at some designated point in time, and we coordinate that through the town administrator's office, town manager's office, and I think that's something we really want to bring back this year. We haven't had those. There's just been so many people who already knew the buildings that they felt they were quite familiar with the space, and that is open to the entire committee. So that's sort of a quick snapshot of a lot of great work that takes place.
So I want to open it up for, if anybody knows what they want to be on now, we can discuss it now, and you can let us know, and Christine can put it on the list and pull the document together, or if you don't know now and you want to take some time to look at it again and review it some more, you can email me. I know for me, I know I'm on the full day kindergarten study group, but I would like to maybe discuss with Kelly if that's something maybe she would want to take over and
I could probably take over it.
take on the lead on that. Maybe we
One
can
in the
swap out
same.
some names there and
Maybe
and that
something.
type of thing. But
Yeah.
if there's anything else you know of anything you'd want to be on, open up to some discussion.
I'm having logistical challenges with the NSPAC schedule with my work schedule.
And
So
PTOs as well.
if anybody else is interested
'Cause
in
do you want to split this-
stepping in on that.
I can take over that. He was saying that a lot of the stuff is during the days and in the morning, so.
So do you want to separate out the PTOs and NSPAC and make it two, or and have multiple people, or are you feeling just that you could do both, or does anybody else want to? I just want to make room for if there's multiple people wanting the same, similar,
So I was sort of eyeing the policy subcommittee.
Okay.
As well as, I wanted to see if Keith was very enthusiastic about the health and wellness committee, or whether,
Not a lot happened last year,
Okay.
but it looks like there are some things happening, but you can definitely jump in if you'd like.
now is that, I don't want to
Maybe do-
take a committee from you.
It's fine.
But if you're really enthusiastic.
Not going
we
to
could
stand in the way.
always-
Food
We could always
service review
liaise.
will be important.
You're going to have your hands full, Keith, with minutes.
So those were really my two, was policy and health and wellness.
I should be available to do payroll warrants this summer on and off.
I'll be around
more
too.
Travel
Okay.
permitting.
We need one.
Capital planning, I'd be glad to jump in on. And open to doing any curriculum related particular interests. So I don't know if those are being consolidated or
Mhm.
what's happening there, but if that becomes active and needed, I'm willing.
And if Keith really has an interest on the curriculum, I can go on as an alternate.
Okay.
We only want to have
So it
one
looks
member.
like that's a swap. Okay. You gonna miss curriculum?
Yeah, well, I'll be an alternate, so I'll still be
Okay.
there sometimes.
We have to. Is that,
We
there's no
have to.
rule
we can.
against that. So there you go.
The
Okay.
only thing that we're concerned about is if there's ever going to be some discussion that we are mindful of a quorum, but we usually do that's why we do the doodle poll.
True.
So, and we haven't really had that situation come about. I think we may want one more on payroll and warrants. We have two, if there's a third one who could
I
sign
think
up.
Keith said and then Kelly said.
Keith
Yeah, they
and
were-
Kelly,
yeah.
And then,
and Sue, you're gonna stay on that?
I can
Okay.
stay on as me.
We have our
That's
three.
not a problem. And I believe you could also probably add me to capital planning if there's
Mhm.
not any.
Long-range planning will be a separate, is that going to materialize this year? See that one?
oh, is that because of their like doing
The master
town
planning,
things?
I
Is
think
that,
it's
like, part of
turned
the town
into,
thing?
yeah, it's turned into the master planning committee
Okay.
at this point.
And if, Sue, you want to be on capital planning, I can take a year off from that.
So,
we
it
have
looks
two
like 3
members.
on there now, if it would be
Because it'd be Keith.
you,
Yeah,
me, and
but, I
Keith.
mean, so there's just two?
It looks
No,
like
it
we
says
need
2
total.
TBDs.
Looks like it's
So
supposed to be
3
3
people total.
right?
Oh, you
3
want, you want
capital?
3 on that?
Or you'd
We
want-
can have 3, we can have 2. There's no requirement for
there's no-
3.
oh.
Okay.
Oh, I thought, okay.
Then it. That one.
So are there any spaces that need to be filled at this time?
We can come back to them.
We can
for those.
generate
I
a
don't believe
revised
there's
list, just to make sure we
Okay.
captured
Right.
all this correctly and send it out to the committee. Again, the real pressing committee at this point is payroll and warrants, and then the policy, the interest in policy. As the summer progresses, if in fact we are going to meet in the summer, which we've started to do for certain committees, we'll send that out to everyone, and it'll be open. The only, again, concern would be if we had a quorum.
Okay. So we can go ahead and, oh, Joan, yes? one more?
I think the liaison to selectmen was usually the chairman of the board, because if you're, I know, if you're in the audience, sometimes they'll ask you, you know, an opinion is something, so it should come from the chair.
Right.
So usually, it was the chair who was the liaison to selectmen.
Okay. Not a problem. All right. That looks
Is that a good
Any
progress
other
then?
comments?
It's a lot to
questions?
start
Revise
with.
and review again?
Yes, and then we'll bring it back next month. Also look at what we've added to it, and if you have any other changes or additions in the meantime, you can email me and let me know, and I can pass it on, we can put it all together for the next meeting. Great.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Lincoln Street and Z School Principal Search Committee updates.
Well, I don't think there's any better way to provide an update than to introduce you to our principal of Z School for next year. So this is not where you, I know, this is a difficult moment. And the principal of Lincoln Street School next year. So in the audience tonight, we have Jennifer Lamontagne. And Jennifer, I don't know if you want to stand, who is our appointee or the principal for Lincoln Street Elementary School for next year. And Amy Souls, who has just been appointed this week, principal for the Marion EZ Elementary School. I will share that it was a fairly rigorous process. As you know, the announcements went out to the specific schools and to the school committee. There were 2 opportunities for faculty and staff to meet the finalists. These visits are important because the feedback we receive is essential in making the final decisions. And they had tours conducted by both Principal Parson at Lincoln and Sue Witten at Z. We had 2 sessions for parents and PTO members and community to stop by and visit. And the Northborough School Committee had an opportunity to meet the candidates. So we're very pleased. I know they're excited and have been in our schools and already in contact with Jen and Sue about how they can get to meet our students and our parents before the start of the school year. So they're friendly faces before the school year begins. So I'm not sure if
Welcome.
you have questions or.
Welcome. What's the official start? Is it July 1st or is it?
July 1
Yeah.
by contract, but the school year. Mhm.
Okay.
And welcome and good luck. We'll see you again soon. Thank you. So we will move on to next agenda item, DARE programming.
This is a very exciting announcement for us. It is part of our ongoing collaborative work with our police departments, not only in Northborough but Southborough as well. I think there's been a number of years, and look at Michelle, I think at least 10 years, we've been talking about expanding the DARE program, which basically stands for Drug Abuse Resistance Education, but it stands for much more. It's social emotional learning, it's components about making good decisions. And DARE has been a fundamental part of the curriculum at grade 5 for some time in our Northborough schools. After much conversations with the chief of police, we have finally found ourselves in a situation where we're able to expand the DARE program into 7th grade, and that will begin next year. So the curriculum is very much prescribed by the DARE program, just like it is for grade 5. And the officers in Northborough have gone through the official DARE training program. Michelle will be working with the designated officer over the summer. We will coordinate again with the Southborough Police Department to ensure that the curriculums are aligned, because as we know, we do support one another when there's circumstances that require us to do so. And we'll be back in the fall with a detail and a description of the curriculum and how that's going to work in our school beginning in the fall. So again, I want to thank the police department for having the ongoing conversation that we have over the years. The police have, with the schools, purchased the necessary materials to launch the program and have, again, gone through the required program training. So more information will be coming. I do have some material, general material tonight that just does share some facts about the DARE program. If there are parents in the audience who have had children go through grade 5 or are in grade 5, or in our viewing audience, they're familiar with the process and how it's introduced into the curriculum in the school year, but it will be similar, but the scheduling and so forth will be what we work on as well over the summer. And all students will be afforded this opportunity. And again, it's just part of our readiness program. And it's been a long time in the works, and we finally be able to launch this. So I have this, and I'll distribute this. It's a lot of reading material. Also, we'll post it on the website, both on the district and on the Melican website as well, for folks to take a look at.
Further questions? Kelly?
So right now it's just offered for grade 5, and now it's going to be 6 and 7
No,
also? Or is
it's
that through-
every 2-year program. It's prescribed for every other year, so it'll be grade 5.
And grade 7?
And we're starting grade 7 next
Okay.
year. Yep. More information to come. And I'd just like to thank Chief Liver and his officer team. I think there were a number of officers who were excited about the opportunity to participate in this, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to echo your thanks. I'm hearing about it from my 5th grader, and just in general, the Northborough Police have been around a lot and interacting with my own children in a very positive way. I think my kids talk about it, so it's much appreciated.
We'll pass that on to Chief Liver.
Any other questions,
A lot of
comments?
young officers.
Just, yeah.
They like the
Michelle and I were
kids.
just
No,
talking
they-
about
they-
that,
They
yeah.
seem to be into the kids. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
They do the kids, absolutely.
Very approachable.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? I just want to say, I think it's great that you're expanding it to the 7th grade, because that is really when it starts to kind of become more real and kick in, that, you get in 5th grade's introduction, and I think 7th grade is a great
We'll follow up.
thing to kind of follow up and touch base with them again, and really hits home with them a little bit more. And
The sequencing also, so they'll have 8th grade and then they'll move into the high school program, which is not DARE, but I know the high school does do extensive programming around some of these issues as well. So it continues that sort of 2-year progression for our students in terms of education and making good decisions.
I do have a question. Have the schools ever collected self-reported data from the students before and after completing the DARE program about their perceptions or about whether they're participating in recreational drug use? I was just wondering if you've seen any data, if there has been any data presented.
not at the
Interesting.
Not at the
Who wants
5th
to-
grade.
Not the 5th grade.
But I will say, and Michelle can speak to this, we have been a part of the Metro West Health Survey for, I think, 3 cycles now, or maybe 4 cycles. And that's a very comprehensive survey that we've been participating in, and it's just not about drug use. It's about, all the sort of the challenges that young folks are facing this day and age. And we do receive a very, very comprehensive report, which the schools use in a myriad of ways, including helping to decide what additional kinds of programming we want to welcome into the school. So we do that, and I know from time to time there are additional surveys depending on the grade levels.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Move on to the next agenda items, approval of grants and donations. It looks like we have 3 this evening.
The Northborough Youth Basketball Association is an interesting follow-up to probably, we meet with NYBA a couple times a year, and this year we met for about 2.5 hours because they also have a lot to do with a couple other athletic organizations in the district, and the membership is similar in terms of their officer team. And Bob O'Brien is taking over NYBA and will be much mentored by Tom Spataro, who has been part of NYBA, I think, since it started to expand in all of our schools. And through the conversation, became aware of really how much NYBA has provided in terms of upgrades to our facilities, yet we haven't ever acknowledged that in some sort of formal donation way. And as we know, as a school committee, we like to do that, but we're also required to do that in terms of accepting a donation. Mr. O'Brien was planning to be here this evening. He got called away with his schedule of work, and I did suggest that it would be a pleasure for the school committee to have them actually come and meet with everyone just to talk about the kinds of programming that they offer our students, but also the kinds of ways that they support our work every day. And he is planning to come, so he might be an agenda item for September already as we think about planning new items. But I did get a snapshot and a summary of just what they've provided for this year and a dollar amount which we could collectively accept in as a school committee. So they have actually updated our basketball courts from the information he shared with me at Melican, Peasley, Proctor, and Z just this year. And that was about a $17,000 initiative. They have added rugs, mats to a couple of our schools. I'm getting correct me if this is misinformation. They've updated a basketball clock in one of our schools. And they've also contributed baskets to each of the 4 schools at about $150 each. All of that totals $20,700. I don't think that's all of what they've done, but it's definitely what they shared with me in conversation. So in full acknowledgement of that and acceptance of their work, I would request that the school committee acknowledge the contribution of Northborough Youth Basketball and formally accept that donation of $20,700 in terms of equipment and facility upgrades.
Do you want to go through the rest of them one by one, or should we do them individual?
We can take them all at once or individually. It's the will of the committee.
I was going to move to accept and acknowledge and thank the Northborough Youth Basketball Association for all their contributions in the amount of $20,700 or so.
Second?
I agree.
All those in favor?
Thank you. And I will share that good word
It's
with
a
them
little known
tomorrow.
fact, so thanks for bringing that up.
I'd like to see them on our agenda every year,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the year, maybe doing a summary of all that they've done for the schools and the
Sure.
programs and the kids.
And then the other 2 we still need motions for.
Mhm.
If you want to speak to them, or if they're pretty.
I'll ask, Michelle, they're both yours,
Sure.
2 donations.
Sure. So each year we participate in the Box Top for Education collection throughout the year, as well as the A+ Shoppers Award. And the money comes in at a good time of the year, so we use it to supplement technology purchasing. So projectors, things like that we might need at the end of the year that are not in the budget for the current year. So that's what we use those for.
Excellent.
A motion to accept.
I move that we accept the A+ rewards in the amount of $318.50 to Melican Middle School in gratitude and thanks.
I second.
All those in favor?
And I move that we accept the Box Top Education in the amount of $255.80 also to Melican Middle School.
I second.
All in favor? All right, great. So, I'm sorry, yes, Ron.
I would just like to say, I think all these awards and even the box tops, because I know the students usually bring them in every day and someone has to count them and cement them and, get them all organized. But, we always give so many thanks to the PTOs and everything that they do, the Ed Foundation, because it makes our job so much easier in the budget season when it's tight as it is. But even knowing these things, it's so many giving back, and it's just not, it's for the youth basketball, it's just not for the students that are doing the basketball, but it's for everybody that uses that facility and does it. So it's wonderful that we have people that are still giving back so much to our community that enriches all the students. So thank you very much to everybody.
I guess extend our thanks to Bob and everybody else. Great, thank you. Great. Go ahead and move for the next item on the agenda, which is old business, master plan update. And that would be me, since I am the liaison to the planning. We had our last meeting on May 3rd, and we set a date for the first public meeting to gather input from citizens on their ideas for the master plan. And the public meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 12th at 6:30 at Melican. And I have flyers for the committee to be well reminded of that. The meeting will allow for citizens to see where Northborough is today by providing a baseline snapshot and give an opportunity to provide input on what you would like your town to look like in the future. If you can't make it, that's okay, because this won't be the only meeting that they're going to have. They'll have several throughout the process over the course of a year and a half. So there'll be more meetings planned in the future. And they also are going to be working on a website that's currently in development, which will have an area to submit input for those who are unable to attend a public meeting and who would like to be part of the process. I was tasked to get at least 10 people, so I think I have more than 10 people here this evening to solicit to come to the meeting. So those at home watching and those here. So again, it's Tuesday, June 12th, 6:30 to 9 at Melican. That was the update on that.
It's very timely. A lot of changes happening. Downtown, more things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I plan on being there, and I was just excited to see that there will be not just insight into the next 3 to 5 years, but even up to 20 years, which is exciting as a new member of town. So.
Yes, to be very. And I believe that is posted on the town's website, so if we had a quorum, it is publicly posted.
Right. What generally, if we think, just to be safe, just to be extra cautionary, if we think that the school committee will be in attendance more than 3, which is the quorum 4, we would post it ourselves, just to say the school committee may be attending this meeting, and that way it allows for discussion by school committee members without some concerns around open meeting. So we can certainly post that as we normally would. We've done that at town meeting, when we have meet with financial advisory in February. We always just post that we're attending the meeting, so that if all 3 school committee members who are there engage in some sort of discussion about a particular topic related to schools, or it wouldn't be construed as a discussion of the committee about the schools. And we would post that. So I will make a note to post.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have good representation.
Yes. Right. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, Superintendent's report to the Committee on Enrollments.
The enrollments, the current enrollments as of May 24th are in your packet. And as you note, we have circled a few grade levels that are capped. We are still seeing fluctuations. I will say that one year brings about significant change in the next. Last year, we were talking about the influx of grade 2 and grade 3 students. This year, it's K and 1. So that's where we're seeing an increase. Right now, we have places for all of the 14 students that are moving into our school community that are not now with us, that we know of as of this date. I did have a conversation with the bus company today, and as we've been discussing our routes, they've been working on our routes already. So that means for the first time, we probably will have our routes pretty much finalized by the end of June. They did tell me that next week they'll be able to give me what the next assignment would be for those 14 students who are now waitlisted in their neighborhood school. So they'll be able to learn of their placement before August, which this is our third year of redistricting, and that will be great news for the parents who will be moving in. And we do know that we have space at grade K and 1 in several of our schools. So we're well situated to place these students.
And so is the cap for K1 and 2 different from
Yes.
3, 4, and 5? So it's 20 for K1 and 2?
It's, I think we just had a disenrollment in grade 1 at Lincoln, I'm not sure. So that would be circled too, and that's not circled in your packet.
Okay.
So it's 16 to, it's 18 to 20 at K1 and 2, and it's to 22 in grades 3, 4, and 5.
Thank you.
I don't know where this fits into the thing, but you mentioned about busing. Why buses stop so frequently? Does that impact the scheduling of the buses? Because it seems like that's like a big thing in the beginning of the year, is always like, and I know now the buses have to go different things for the redistricting and things like that. I don't know, is that?
So that's something that's in conversation with the bus company.
Okay.
There has been no determination of stops at this point.
Okay.
They're still working on the routes, and where the students are situated along the route oftentimes determines the stopping
Okay.
of a bus on a particular route. There has been a lot of conversations, particularly when we've been talking about long-term changes that may be at the high school in terms of start time, that when a bus stops, it's, about 30 seconds, 45 seconds per stop. And do we want to, through the work that we do with the bus companies, really look at the stops?
Yeah.
Because that is from house to house to house stops. But it's premature to determine what that looks like for next year. We have to get the routing done and the
I just
distribution of
think
the
back
students.
to when I was a kid, and, I mean, you had to walk a good distance to the bus stops, and right now at my house, I live on Northgate, and I can see 2 bus stops. Like the bus stops and then drives a little bit and then stops again, so I'm just wondering how they come up with all that.
Yeah, it depends on the part of town too, because the houses are a little more
Yeah.
cozy in that
In
part of
my
town.
neighborhood it is.
And then in other
Yeah.
parts, it's a bit more rural or spread out.
I think that it's become a norm over time. And, certainly when we talk about our transportation routes, we take a look at a lot of different things, whether there are sidewalks, whether there are curves, whether there are, isolated areas. All those are considerations. We want to keep our students safe as they're about to board and disembark on the bus. But it's a conversation that comes about, and that has been part of a conversation.
It is a good point. Now that I think about it, even we're on a cul-de-sac, so we walk up, but there's 3 in a row.
Right.
And they tend to just cluster at one house anyway. They actually naturally have created their own bus stop. And the bus driver can tell where they are, so because they're all the same age, and there's a few parents watching, and again, it's all eyesight, line of sight. So
I think that we would never think about changing, I can't say never, but I think the general rule, if we were to consolidate routes, is the house or the stop visible for the parent, so that the parent can always, have an eye view of their child. And in many cases, there are 3 homes, and the middle house would certainly provide that line of sight for parents. That's really important, and we certainly don't want to change that. But oftentimes, there were times when buses didn't even go down a cul-de-sac. The students walked to the end of the cul-de-sac,
go to
and
the
that
end.
was the route.
Yep.
Yeah.
we go to the end.
So there's been changes, and I think the changes might have come about because of, individual student needs over time, and then it just became where the bus stopped.
Yeah.
Maybe a student was, had an injury or something that wouldn't allow them to walk for a period of time, and then it just became the norm. And it's tough to change those, but we are looking at it. Particularly as the routes get tighter. If we can find ways to save minutes, it gets the students home on time
Yeah.
instead of, later than the posted time. I will say that if we don't have an influx over the summer, as we saw last year, the frequency of buses going down routes, the same road, will probably decrease because we're not sending students across town. But excellent point.
Any other
I-
comments? Oh, sorry. go
I
ahead.
do, just for parents, as of June 20th, we will be registering all students at central office. This will be on our website, so that the registration is not confusing to parents. It will be through central office, and we all know Nancy Bissett does an amazing job. She's the all-star of scheduling students throughout the summer. It's something we started 3 years ago. We actually think people who are moving into the community enjoy that, because not always is there someone in the office at our elementary schools. And so that really gives them a face sooner than later, and it gets them all their paperwork completed. So when school starts, we hand over the folders to the school, and it's really added to the efficiency, but more importantly, it's added to the anxiousness for parents and students that they're all set and they're not having to do all that paperwork on the day that the schools open up again. So it's had a benefit for the parents and for the students, beyond just the fact that we're allowed to, this is how we've been able to redistrict over the summer. And that will continue right through to Friday, September 7th. And as I said, last year, we notified parents of the placements in August. That's why, for the first time ever, we will have our routes done by June 30th. So we're really excited about that. And that will give us more time to tweak those little changes.
Any other questions or comments about enrollments? Go ahead and move ahead to our next agenda item, FY18 monthly general fund expenditure report.
It's hard to believe that we're actually looking at the last distributed monthly expenditure report for this school year. The June report comes back to you in September as a completed fiscal year, and we make a lot of changes over the summer. This is a very critical time for us, the month of June, as we try to make sure that we've addressed all of the invoicing and all of our obligations, financial obligations for things we've purchased all year round, as well as addressing all of our summer payrolls, and it's just a very busy time. I am, as you can see, very watchful over that bottom line number that we have here as a balance, and Matt and myself have had lots of conversations and will continue to. And we do have the conversation that we had about some deficits in the revolving account, which will be offset by this number. So when we meet in June, in August, September, we will have the final expenditure report for the fiscal year 18. And we can certainly talk about, that when that budget's distributed. A lot will happen to this document between now and June 30th as we close out the school year. Budgets don't end up exactly to the penny on what we projected this, last March and last February when these budgets were voted. So this evening, as is customary, we would like a vote to approve until audited.
Do we have any discussion before we make a motion? Make a motion, then discussion?
I move that we accept until audited the FY 2018 budget monthly general fund expenditure report as of May 31st, 2018.
Oh,
I
Kelly,
second.
second. All right. Do we have any further question or discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Next item, which education policy, we have none at this time. And then next is policy development and for distribution. The ones we have listed on here, the 4 that are on this list, included in your packets, were approved last month at our May meeting and are just for distribution at this time.
They are, with a minor edit. Not an edit to these documents, but when we voted on a first read last month, because several of them, of these policies, we've been reviewing, it seems like all year, both at combined and at the Northborough School Committee meetings. So for a matter of policy and in keeping with practice, while before we distribute them tonight, they are in the form that we voted last month. I would request that the committee just, for the record, vote on a second read tonight, vote them again as if it was a second read, so that we have that in the record.
So you just wanted to have us have
Just a,
two different
yeah,
votes
just a
on the
second
same
vote
thing?
on the accepted policies.
We do
Do
them
you have
all.
any discussion ahead of time, so they know if there's any questions or on the policies, comments?
I know you've probably had a lot of discussion the past year, but if, I just had a question about the immunizations. I know that there was a stipulation that said for religious beliefs that immunizations were not required. Has there been any issues with instances where there has been other cases of non-compliance where we needed to put something in the policy?
So, just so, as a matter of process, all of our policies are reviewed, particularly our health and wellness policies are reviewed in the health and wellness subcommittee of the subcommittee.
Okay.
And we have a school physician that is a physician that's appointed at the combined meeting, and she represents and advises us on all of the policies that are health-related.
Okay.
So that's reviewed through the Health and Wellness Subcommittee, and then they come up to the Policy Subcommittee. And in addition to that, we send all of our policies off to legal counsel to
Okay.
make sure that they're in compliance with Mass General Law and the law. So all of these have been vetted through that process tonight. And that's just to give committee members and all of, the community reassurance that we really do our due diligence when we're approving a policy.
Okay.
So that has happened, and that very same question did come up. So that has been addressed in this.
Great. Thank you.
So I'll entertain a motion. Do you want to do all four together? Knock them out?
Can we?
Yeah.
Sure, go for it.
I move that the committee accept the policies as distributed today, including E210, school-based public access defibrillation program, as well as J100, school immunization requirements, J220, dispensing of medication, and J340, head injury and concussions policy.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Great.
Thank you.
Now we can distribute. Thank you.
Great. So the next item on the agenda is audience sharing. It looks like we have the audience tonight. I want to remind everyone that this is audience sharing and it is not a public hearing. School committee members generally don't respond to questions, but we are here and happy to listen to anything you would like to share with us tonight.
Hi. My name is Sherry Clark, and I'm actually here representing a group of parents that have gotten together that have kind of formed a school safety task committee or task group in light of some of the stuff that has gone on this year. We're hoping that as we do this and approach the school, that our community will be a proactive community instead of a reactive community. So I have a few things that we're asking for, and then I do have some questions, which if they're not answered, I guess maybe I can email and
Refer
to
to-
get responses back. So the first request has to do with protocol. We're requesting that the district form a protocol following a school threat that includes the following things, and that the protocol, if there's one already in place, is reviewed to hopefully include these things. So the first one is that a press release goes out to the town. We believe that after a school threat, the whole town should be aware, so that if they see something, they can say something, not just the parents at the school. We're also requesting that an email from the superintendent goes out to all parents, including Tiny Tomahawks, in all schools, regardless of where the threat occurred. And this way, there is one consistent message. During the previous threat, there were actually 3 different messages, and unfortunately, I think that actually causes talk and maybe rumors and just misinformation getting passed around. So we'd like that all the schools, all the parents, regardless of the school, receive the same information. We're looking for consistent follow-up emails with investigation updates that can be given, including, if necessary, the information that the investigation is ongoing with no new information. So I know at this point we're on day 5, maybe, of actual school days. And I know there's a lot of parents interested in where kind of the investigation is at this point. And this would continue until the time the investigation is closed and the parents can be told the outcome. We're also requesting clarity of what police presence means. Does this mean X amount of police on campus, a roaming officer between the schools, and will that be consistent for the entire length of an open investigation? I guess there's some question as to what police presence actually means, because for the days during this investigation, it's meant something a little different all of the days. And then when school is held after a threat, kids be debriefed by their first period teacher and told that counselors are available all day and in the days following for kids that would like to go and visit a counselor. Our second request is to get involved in the Sandy Hook Promise. The Sandy Hook Promise is actually a great training system that can be completely free to a school community. They try to assist you in providing all fees paid for the school, and if not, we have a group of parents ready to do the fundraising necessary to make sure that this program comes to the school. They have 3 different programs that we think would be really beneficial. The first one is called Start with Hello, and that is for your K through 5th graders, and it's about inclusion, and it's hoping to catch those kids who are already starting to be isolated in elementary school years in hopes that they are not isolated by high school years. And it's helping to interact with children. It teaches them different inclusionary skills. And then they move on to a program called Say Something, which is for your kids 10 and up, so middle school and high school age. And this builds a culture of looking out for one another, reporting possible threats of violence when someone sees, reads, or hears something, and entire communities will become safer and lives will be saved. Say Something informs and educates about observable warning signs that are often present in behavior that could lead to someone hurting themselves or others, as well as educates individuals on how to safely and anonymously report potential threats. Additionally, the program provides tools on how to best promote the reinforced Say Something. And then the final one is called Safety Assessment and Intervention, and that is actually a training program for administration and teachers on how to identify threats, signs and signals to commit a violent act, and determining the seriousness of a threat, sign, or signal. And I have paperwork on all these that I can give you guys. It goes on as well that at the high school level, these things could turn into something called Save Promise Club, which continues a place for young people across the school to show their leadership, creativity, and passion for protecting their friends, schools, and communities before something happens. This would be a similar program to like SAD and things like that. So those are the 2 things that we're requesting. And these are my questions. So I guess I will ask them, and if there's an answer, great, and if not. We're curious if the school currently has an anonymous tip line separate from the one that the police has.
Christine, did you want to go ahead and?
We do. I know we met with the police to try to figure out the best way to set that up so that it just doesn't bounce back to an online. And we have our technology department looking at a number of resources to set up a tip line that it makes sure that it goes to a source that's going to be readily accessible to receive that information.
Okay, and
So
that
we have a link on our website, and I'm going to double check tomorrow to make sure it's still active. And yes, we do have the anonymous tip line for bullying and concerns around harassment and so forth. But we have had some ongoing conversations with the police department. They also have a sort of a litany of resources available, so sometimes it's finding out the best one that's going to work in our district.
Yeah.
But thank you for bringing that up, because that is part of the conversation.
Great. So then my follow-up was, can we get that information out more readily to the general public, that there is actually a tip line that is not going to the police? Our concern was that teenagers would hear this line is being recorded,
Right.
and immediately hang up. So, okay. Second question is if our school system has ever had a risk assessment done.
When, I guess I can, so much for generally answering, but I think it's important for you to get this information right away. So before Sandy Hook, we actually, and again, if you attended the Safe School Readiness Forum, you probably heard pieces of this, and if folks in the audience or in the viewing audience did not have an opportunity to attend that session in March, where the chiefs from Northborough and Southborough were present, our school resource officers as well as the fire chiefs were present. The link to that forum was about 2.5 hours, is on the district website under Safe School Readiness. So that's a pretty informative link, and it will sort of give a lot more information to respond to some of the questions that might be coming up. So with respect to the process, before Newtown, we actually had Homeland Security in to work with us to conduct some of the kinds of things that you were talking about in your earlier part of the presentation. And they walked through the process with it. We opened up the district to police officers from across the Commonwealth as well as school departments. And from that, we conducted our own sort of assessment in terms of what our safety protocols were and our practices. And we built upon that information to build some of the things that we have in place now around our practices and our procedures and so forth. And then every year, or not every number of years, you want to redo that assessment. And we're in the process of rewriting that assessment, because from when the origins of that, probably 5 years ago now, I think this is our 5th year of Alice, almost going into our 6th year, that hadn't been done for a while. So all of the administrative team worked together, including, frequency of drills, making sure that our practices were proactive, that we were engaging in an active dialogue with the police department and making sure that they were always welcome and visible in our schools, whether or not there was something taking place, because that builds a really positive relationship. You heard tonight that we've been working on expanding DARE for almost 10 years. So I think some of the things that you were referencing in your work here will be included in those discussions. But again, there's always great resources to look into, and we continue to do that. So we have, and that's an ongoing process, and we need to continue that cycle. And that's something where
Do you know,
We have.
does it ever get posted for the public to be able to look at the assessment that's done and the findings of the assessment?
that's sort of one of those protected areas, because you don't want to necessarily
Give away,
point
but,
out
yeah.
your vulnerable positions. And I know we've talked about this, but one of the things that is true, there are very few things that are protected by the open meeting law that would warrant and constitute executive session. And that's one of the things that Mass General Law has really held to, particularly after, after Newtown. Everybody was revisiting what should you say and what shouldn't you say in public forums. And so that's one of those gray areas. Certainly we don't want to be anything but transparent when we can be. And I do very much appreciate your comments tonight, because it does give us, some things to go back and have some conversations about. And I can just speak from my office. I do appreciate what you're sharing tonight. Some of which I can't comment on, some of it we will comment on, and some of it, I've received a lot of emails with ideas about programs as well. So we need to investigate which ones make sense for our community, and which ones, our school community, and which ones aren't necessarily duplicative from some of the things that we're already doing. But it's good to share these ideas.
So one other thing with the risk assessment that I will just bring up, just as feedback, since we can't see what's done. I was at the high school selling post-prom tickets.
Right.
And it's very nice because it's a really friendly community. The problem is the doors get propped open and kids know the code of the back door. And so in terms of safety, I sat there going, wow, it's nice that everybody is so polite, but anybody could get in the back at basically any time, because the locker room door and the code is widely known.
I can't comment on that.
Okay.
I
So
would say
that's
that's
just
not in,
One of the reasons I
Yeah.
asked about risk assessment was just in the, have people walked around
Sure.
to see where they can get in. as
our
part of-
police officers do on a regular basis, and we do, I know our administrative team does that as well, but good points.
Sorry, 2 last questions. We were curious how many counselors and psychologists each of our schools have and what that means the ratio of student to counselor is.
That we can publish,
Okay.
because that's readily available.
Okay. So if I
Um,
emailed you, you could email me back the numbers for the schools?
If you gave me a couple days
Yeah.
to get it,
Yeah.
yes. We're very pleased to say that one of the things that we have done in all of our schools is to make sure that we have a counselor, a school psychologist, And in most cases, we have an adjustment counselor or behavioral specialist in all of our schools, which we're really proud of, because I don't think that you would find that everywhere. You'll find it elsewhere, but you won't find it everywhere. And that's something that we've really built up over time, as well as some additional supports. And I think that what would also be important, some feedback that I received today in a very lengthy conversation with someone who had sent me an email throughout this process, I reached back out to him, is that, we do a lot of great things, but those great things are things that sometimes we take for just routine practice, and need to do a much more detailed, better way of sharing what those things are to the public. So, that's part of our discussion as well. That question, we can answer.
Okay, that's great. And I think it's fair, too, to say, if the public finds it not, then that's a great resource to go and ask for a bigger budget for the school to take care of a potential.
That's how we actually got the positions that we have,
Yeah.
because that was part of the conversation, so you're right.
That's great. And then the last one is what the protocol is for kids who may be found guilty of posting a threat to the school.
So that's really not necessarily a school issue. So those kinds of things are really taken, if anyone's been following the news, incredibly serious by the police. And once those situations are in play, that's really a decision of law enforcement. Certainly, the schools would have some input when asked. But in many of these situations, when it's an ongoing investigation, it's a police matter.
So do the police determine when the child is able to go back to school, or is that a school decision?
Depends on the outcome of the investigation and the findings and the outcome of the courts.
Okay.
It's not I can't give you one answer that's going to fit every situation. I can just say that we are in active support of the work that the police do in order to conclude the investigation in a way that provides the outcome that we think is important. I don't want to say justice, but I mean, that's part of the court proceedings.
Thanks for your time. I'm going to give you my notes so that you have
would appreciate
the things
them.
that I was requesting, as well as the Sandy Hook stuff.
What ages are your kids and what schools?
I actually have a kid at all schools.
Wow.
So I have a
Congrats.
first grader, a sixth grader, and an 11th grader.
Impressive.
So I'm going to be here for a long time.
What elementary school?
Z.
Okay. Thank you for sharing the information.
Is
One last question. Are the Sandy Hook programs, are they well detailed on a website?
They're very well detailed, and sorry, I apologize because part of the thing that I did not share is the success that they've had, and that is in the paperwork that I'm going to pass on. But there have been 3,500,000 educators, parents, and community leaders that have been trained on this program. So it's been very well documented. It's very successful, and schools have really been using it to progress.
Thank
All
you.
the info's on their website.
Yes, and so the website is on the paperwork I'm going to give you, as is the paperwork with information here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Could I make a
thank you.
request?
Yes.
Of, I don't know if this is legal, official, but I think there's clearly, the desired outcome is the same, whether it's from the safety work group that's forming, or whether it's the work that we do every day in our schools and every day with our police department. There's a lot of active dialogue that takes place, and some of the things we can't and we won't share, but because then that really negates the work that we're trying to do in our schools. However, as superintendent, I do have a request that the work that you do becomes transparent to us, so that together we can form a partnership. The programs that you suggest are probably phenomenal programs that we should take a look at, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're the only programs or right for our district. And so what we would want to do is do, our work in collaboration with the police and get additional information from schools. But I think that the way that we're going to do this best is to work together going forward. And all too often, we are asked to respond to rumors, false information, misinformation on a myriad of sites that we don't have the time to do because we're trying to address the incident. And so what I would ask is to come out from behind social media and come into my office, and we work together with a team of people in a united way that's going to address some of your concerns. You bring up a lot of great suggestions, and you have a lot of wonderful folks who are providing input with wonderful ideas. We're not going to be able to do all of them. We should be able to do some of them working together. Social media conversation is not going to be the way that's going to make it happen. So I invite anyone who's on this study group to come into my office. Let's figure out how we can form a study group, a working group, a collaborative group, and that invitation begins tomorrow. Call my office, but we're not going to be spun by social media. We can't.
No, and I think some of what our hope is in maybe in some of the protocol that we're asking is that some of that social media spinning is affected by one direct message that everybody gets, and then hopefully there isn't a lot of question to go around. But I know the group that I'm working with would be more than happy to set up a date and have us all come in and meet.
So I don't have the room for everyone to join, but if you're planning to, we never shy away from crowds. You saw the forum. So if what needs to happen is, sort of a general meeting, we can book the auditorium or a library or something and find a way to work together, because we all care about our students, each and every one.
And I think the parents are coming from that spot too. And I think as parents, we're coming from a spot where we know in the town that might be the time to request more money. And it may be time for parents to stand up and go, you know what, it's the school's time and we need more money to implement some of this stuff. So
I think it doesn't always come down to money. It comes down to collaboration and being face to face and having difficult conversations. That isn't social media. So
yes,
call me tomorrow. We can find a space.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Any other members of the audience like to share this evening? One more? Oh, microphone and your name, if you could. Yeah. And into the camera.
I just wanted to thank you all for
Your name was?
listening.
Sorry, did I miss it?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, your name?
Oh, my name's Nancy.
Nancy.
And I have a daughter at Z and
Okay.
a son in the middle school. I just, the times are changing, unfortunately, and it's not anybody's fault. It's not my fault. It's certainly not anybody sitting here. But, I can say that truthfully, my kids have been a little bit scared to go to school, and that's really why I'm sitting here. So I'm hoping that we can all find a way to just make them feel safe, because they have not felt safe, and that's not a good thing for anybody.
Mm-hmm. Can I get your last name for the record for the
Yeah,
minutes?
Ruiz, R-U-I-Z.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other audience? Sure. Okay. We move on to the principals. Do you have anything to share? Surprisingly quiet this evening.
Come on, it's June.
All right, sounds good. End of the year, everything's good. Okay. Any school committee members have anything to share? Joan?
I don't have anything to share, but I'd just like to thank our two departing principals, Mrs. Witten and Jen, for the wonderful years that you have given to the students of Northborough. And it also goes into the students of Southborough, the collaboration that you have done with the principals in Southborough, and then taking your students graduate and go up to Algonquin. Both of you have played an important part. You both were at the ad rent new building, what can we say, for Z School and for Lincoln Street. You've left us in great hands, and it has been a joy and a pleasure to be with you. And I think as anyone does, and we want our kids to graduate and go on to high school, we want you to graduate and go on to things that you want to do. Sue, going on to retirement, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. I sell it. I'm the salesperson for retirement these days. It's wonderful, and you enjoy the time with your husband. And Jen, going over to Hopkinton as the assistant superintendent, you're going to do wonderful things over there. And congratulations on both of your positions. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for making our job so easy here, and to always give such wonderful parents to us that know that they have an open forum to give their opinions and their discussions, because they love their kids as much as we love them, to educate them and to keep them safe here in our schools. Thank you very much for everything that you've done.
So Joan and I were commenting that 20 years ago, we were at the same place because Joan was on the building committee?
No,
School committee?
just school committee.
Just school committee
Mhm.
for the building of the Z School. And we made it through that together with the building that wasn't quite ready.
Right.
At the start of the school year. And, you know, I think about that situation and completely unsafe school circumstances of having half of the students, K1 and 2, in the gymnasium at Algonquin, trying to have a productive learning environment. That, oh, you were there
I
too,
was a
so the
teacher.
three
I was
of us
assistant
here.
principal
Yes,
then, I
it was a great
remember.
experience there. And then the other half of the students here at Milliken. And we made it through the first 2 months, 3 months of school, and it's been a great ride. So I just want to thank the administration, I want to thank the school committee and the town of Northborough for that privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other school committee members? I just want to echo Joan's thanks for the 2 leaving principals. You'll be sorely missed. I've really enjoyed working with you over my past 4 years here, so thank you so much. Christine, do you have anything?
Easier to say hello than goodbye. You know, Jen's been through so much in just a short period of time and made such an impact in her school and in the school community, and certainly with the renovation of Lincoln Street, we're going to miss her. But I think we wish you all the best. Her career trajectory is up, so certainly, and I know her teachers. It was, I think there was a reason why the site visit was 2 times. The search committee had 2 sessions, if you will. Certainly because we found the most excellent candidates, and everything is worth waiting for. And we were fortunate to find Jen and Amy, but I think the teachers were still really just, and parents, overwhelmed at thinking that Jen was not going to be at Lincoln Street in September, and Sue, after 20 years. I've been calling it Susie since she announced that she was retiring, and that Sue would not be there, because there's just generations of students, not that you're old, Sue, but there's generations of students that, you know, are back in our schools that had Sue as an administrator. So definitely our landscape will change, but we just, from all of the NASA members and all of us in the school district, wish you just the best. And thank you for giving us so many years of your wisdom, experience, and really genuine student-centered mindset all the way through.
If I could just say, because you already got to talk.
I did, sorry.
But, you know, I do want to thank the school committee, and I know when you are a principal and you come before a committee of people who are your boss's boss, it can be daunting. And there hasn't been a time when I've come before the school committee, and certainly there have been changes over the past 7 years where we haven't felt supported and we haven't had those positive comments that build us up after the hard work that goes into preparing, not only for the work we do with kids every day, but to share all of that with you in some kind of cohesive manner. And I will say, I think you, Joan, I've worked with the longest, and as a sitting school committee member in my own town, I think about you all the time when I sit on that side of the table. And when a principal or another school administrator presents, I always think about what went into that presentation. And granted, sometimes there are questions, they're good questions, and you want to ask them and get the answers. But I appreciate the philosophy of these committees that I've worked with here, and the way you've always partnered with us and celebrated our work. So thanks to all of you, and for your dedication to the schools.
Thank you.
Any, Greg, Matt? No? All right. So I guess we'll move on now for our next agenda item, which is distribution of personnel report. That is in your packets. And then also there's communications, distribution of the 2018-2019 school committee meeting dates. So it has the whole year's list of meetings for you there. And our next meeting dates is September 5th for the Northborough School Committee, this group. And then we also have the combined school committee meeting on June 20th, as well with all 3 school committees, Southborough, Northborough, and Region. And lastly, we have future agenda items, which we have Milliken School Improvement Plan and PTO presentation. We're looking forward to seeing.
A DARE update, maybe NYBA if they're available.
Okay.
It's hard to think about September's agenda right now, and there'll be so much that comes up over the summer, I'm sure.
Yes.
So,
Yes, Joan?
I have one, because I see Marie in the audience. We'll probably have an update of the summer program in September.
Oh, the new enrichment program as well, but is that
So
different?
we're here
Not
about that
ready.
in September usually, right?
Gotcha. Oh, okay. So this is a different, okay, gotcha.
It's the Rhoda review presentation.
Yes, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was a little confused there.
Sometime, we try to get them done in, yeah.
We'll have Rona, did you say?
Rhoda, yeah.
Rhoda.
Anybody else have any?
We have
Thought I
cake
had some-
tonight. It's an
Yes.
interesting evening, some going, some coming, new members, and we have an audience. So maybe the audience would like to leave with a piece of cake as well. We don't always have cake, hardly ever. You picked the right evening to come.
For some reason, every time I come, there's cake though.
There's
There's always been cake at the ones I've
Been a
come
busy
to.
year.
Lots to celebrate.
So I will entertain do I do any other business first? Business.
Warrants and payrolls.
Oh, and we have any other business which may legally come before the committee, which is warrants and payrolls.
Mhm.
That's what I was forgetting. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Lauren, second. Okay, all those in favor? And I get to do the gavel again?
You do.
Meeting adjourned.